So, it says, Tela jikten nam nyutong, neljor padam pelbao, tela jikten palbani, neljor jikten gin nöching, neljor payang lo kegi, kongma namgin. In light of that, the world is seen to be of two types. In the light of what? Of relative truth and absolute truth. The world is seen to be of two types. Yogis and common people. Which means the world is seen by two types of people. Okay, there are the yogis and then there is the common people. And regarding that, actually it's not only people. This goes to any realm of existence. It can be to the God realm or any other realm of existence. Okay, we have the yogis and we have the common being. Okay. And regarding that, the world of common people is undermined by the yogi world. Through differences in their intelligence, yogis too are undermined by progressively higher ones. Which means, in the light of that, which means in the light of two truths, which is the relative truth and absolute truth, there are two ways of seeing the world in the context of relative and absolute truth. There is the way of the yogis, which is the way of realizing the lack of inherent existence. And there is the way of the yogis, which means understanding the lack of inherent existence, realizing the lack of inherent existence. That's the way of the yogi. And then there is the way of the common people. The common way of seeing phenomena is that phenomena appear as being relative phenomena appear as being ultimate, appear as being of inherent existence, and we believe in it. That's the common way of seeing. Okay? So the common way is basically the way how we know. It's basically the way as we live. Okay? Which is, phenomena appear to us as being of inherent existence, and we believe in it. Phenomena appear to us as being objective reality. They are subjective, they appear to be objective, and we believe they are objective. Okay? So the point here is that the relative world, what happens? Because phenomena appears to me as being of inherent existence, and I believe in it, and I grasp this generates selfishness, that generates anger, attachment, desire, fear, and everything else, and generates suffering. The yogi way of seeing the world is that everything is interdependent. The yogi way, the yogi realizes the two truths. Realizes the relative truth, which means to realize the relative truth means to realize that the relative truth is relative. And it realizes also the absolute truth, which is the lack of inherent existence of phenomena. For example, what's the absolute truth of the glass? The lack of inherent existence of the glass. The glass does not exist inherently. That's the absolute truth of the glass. What's the relative truth of the glass? That the glass exists as a glass relatively, based on the imputation of the name. Okay? So, the yogi, because realizing the lack of inherent existence and because realizing that relative truth is relative, has eliminated ignorance that grasps at inherent existence. And based on that, he does not generate selfishness, and by that does not generate anger, attachment, envy, jealousy, fear, and so on. And because of that, he's totally out of the cycle of suffering. So common people are the ones that are in samsara. Yogis, in this case, are the ones that are beyond samsara. Okay? And here, basically, the word yogi is being used. Neljor in Tibetan, it means the correct view also, the correct way of acting. Nel la jorpa. Jor means action. Nel means to act in a perfect way. So normally when we have the forms of direct cognition, there is what is called the valid direct yogic cognition, which means the mind that realizes the lack of inherent existence, basically. Okay? So, the point which is being brought here is that the yogi view, it actually undermines the common view, which means it's superior. And the yogic view itself has many levels also. And each one of the levels of realization undermines the one below. The first level of realization of the yogi is what we call the path of seeing, which is the moment in which the practitioner is able to have a direct experience of emptiness, non-conceptual experience of emptiness, which is also what we call developing the superior view that realizes emptiness, or lakton in Tibetan it's called. So it is the ability to meditate, first to keep the pure concentration, but at the same time that a single-pointed concentration, when a small part of the mind analyzes emptiness at the same time, the object of meditation, in this case emptiness. And this without any form of mental distraction or mental dullness that brings, and through this meditation it generates great joy. So when one is able to do that, it's actually, this will bring to a direct experience of emptiness. And this is when there is this direct experience, non-conceptual experience of emptiness, realization of emptiness, is when we realize what is called the path of seeing, and then it's also the moment where the practitioner is out of the cycle of samsara. Okay? From that point until reaching enlightenment, there is still a long path to go. Okay? Normally, the whole path to enlightenment is divided into 3 parts. Until the path of seeing is the first third. The second third is from the first bhumi to the 7th bhumi. And then from the 7th to the 10th is another third. Okay? Which means, once we get out of samsara, there is still 2/3 to go to reach enlightenment. Which is actually the point that getting out of samsara, which is already very wonderful, it is actually eliminating our ignorance. Once we have eliminated ignorance, we need to eliminate the imprints of ignorance. What are the imprints of ignorance? Ignorance is grasping at inherent existence. The imprints of ignorance is the appearance of inherent existence. Normally, whenever we see something, it appears to us as being of inherent existence, and we believe in it. Okay? This means we have both the imprint and the ignorance. Once we have realized it, emptiness, after getting out of the state of meditation, phenomena will still appear to us as if they were of inherent existence, but we know they are not. So it's like being in a dream and know that we are dreaming. Okay? It appears as being true, but I know it's not. It appears as being of inherent existence, but I know it's not of inherent existence. From that point on, gradually through the path of meditation, it's possible to eliminate gradually the imprints of ignorance, which are divided in 108 different forms of imprints of ignorance, through 108 different antidotes. And by that, gradually, it's possible to eliminate the appearance. So when we reach enlightenment, the state of reaching enlightenment is actually the state in which there is no appearance of inherent existence and there is no grasping at such appearance also. So it's when eliminating both the imprints and the actual ignorance. That's why when we say, as it says here, through differences in their intelligence, in their development, in their realizations, yogis too are undermined by progressively higher ones. So as they go through the path, one undermines the other. One is superior to the other. The main point for us here to understand is that in the same way that there are 2 truths, there is also in the same time 2 ways of realizing these truths. And by that, there are 2 ways of seeing the world, two ways of existing and perceiving this whole world. One is a common way in which everything exists intrinsically, inherently. That's how we perceive it, at least. And because of that, there is a lot of suffering and so on. And the other way is the way that we realize the lack of inherent existence. And then there is no more selfishness, there is no more anger, no more suffering. Okay, these are the two ways. So which one do we want to go? We want to go to the way of the yogi. In order to realize that, we need to realize emptiness. Okay? So this part of the text is still talking about actually the importance of realizing emptiness. Why do we need to realize emptiness? That's the first part. Okay? Basically, we need to realize emptiness because we don't want to suffer. And because if we want to reach enlightenment for the benefit of others, the only way of doing it is through the realization of the lack of inherent existence. Okay? Quindi la domanda che questa prima parte del testo ci vuole rispondere un po' è: perché dobbiamo realizzare il vuoto di esistenza intrinseca? Perché dobbiamo sviluppare la corretta visione della realtà? Il punto qui è: il mondo può essere percepito in due modi, nel modo comune, ordinario, o nel modo degli yogi, supremo. Qual è la differenza che c'è? Che nel modo comune, ordinario o anche infantile, come viene chiamato in certi casi, per il fatto che i fenomeni appaiono come se fossero di esistenza intrinseca e noi crediamo in questo, questo va a generare allo stesso tempo egoismo, attaccamento, rabbia, gelosia, invidia e di conseguenza tutto ciò e molto di più in sofferenza. Mentre con la visione suprema, la visione degli arhat, la visione che realizza la mancanza di esistenza intrinseca, si va a eliminare la sofferenza. Quindi per quale ragione dovrei realizzare il vuoto di esistenza intrinseca? Per me stesso, per non soffrire. Per il beneficio degli altri, che è l'unico modo che ho per veramente poter essere di beneficio in un modo profondo e vero agli altri esseri. Ok? Bene. Tongni la go nume. Gonu mebe tsoba pongwa niga yangni döbepe drebu tuntu ma chechir jikten payi ngo tongshin yangda ni tong tok cheki gyuma tabur mimbe dir neljor padang jikten tsu. Tela nueva pongwa Dode bala sope, ngo mawa chir gakpa, ngo sum gi noba gawa. Sukso ngo sum ni kyang ni chakpe yingi tseme ming. Teni mi zang la sopa, zang so chakpa shintu zun. Secondino solo. Palbe drupta la che tamche rangshin me bar tokpe nel jokpe rikpe neba meba mi teba rangshin mebe drupche mebe chirda rangshin mena drebu sangye gi tuntu jinso la loba tun mebar gyuro shena rangshin mebe drupche meba ma imbar ta uma badang ngo mawa nika la yang ni zumpra trakshin dobe milamda gyuma la sobe pete la tene Ranshin ge meba drube chir. Ranshin mena jinso la loba tuntu meba gyurwa ma imba ta sange la sobe drebu tube tuntu jinso dembar meba ma druba kyang ma tak ma cheba zumba gyuma tabur tok pe. Sherab gi sine jukbe chir. Ranshin medo gi sherab gi sine jukbe chir. Ranshin medo gi sherab gi masina parchen lama namgi parchen gi ming mitopchin te mikbu dang cheba namkegi drongyar tu dro gobe chiros. Tsore la sope tuanche nuba me la sopa ngosumgi druba di kegi ke lena kobo cha dila dembar gyurwa she serwani ubu cha tso tuame la di ke milena ngosum dangawa sogi nuba tumar gyuro shena Deda ge ngobo ranshingi mena yeme tu gyurshin yona ranshingi yo go nyampa
deni galwar zimbe tsöba umada ngobor mawa jikden pai mela sobe ngobo nige tseme tongshin kelemba yin ngobor mawa yandakpar juba nitu rokchin kelemba chechin dentong gyuma tabur kongtu chuba mila Uma pe kongtu chuba diryang nel jorbe uma bada jikden ngobor mawa tsoba yinos yana jikden ngama ngobor mawa bashila jaros.
So, the next verse says, Niga yangni döbe pe drebu tundu mache chir jikden pai ngo tongshin yangda ni ton tok chegi gyuma tabur mimbe dir neljor padan jikden tsu. We are in the half of the fourth verse. By means of examples accepted by both, and because, when not scrutinizing, both accept that causes functions for the sake of the result. Which means, both the common view and the yogic view, when in front of an object, like for example planting a seed that will become a plant, that will grow up as a tree, or the fact that any law of cause and effect, that fire will generate smoke or whatever, okay? All of this is seen by both the common way of seeing and the yogic way of seeing as functioning. Causes brings result, and that's okay. I pour the water, it will make the paper wet, okay? That's cause and effect, that's okay. It's seen in the same way by both. It's seen in the same way by the common way and by the yogic way. When not scrutinizing, when not analyzing how it exists. Okay? But functional phenomena are seen. Functional phenomena are all phenomena that depend on causes and conditions. Functional phenomena are seen by the common world, are seen mundanely, are seen by the common world, and conceptualized to be absolutely existent. So this is the common way of seeing. Us, common beings, we see relative phenomena, things that depend on cause and conditions, and we conceptualize them as existing ultimately, as existing absolutely, as existing by their own self inherently, objectively. Okay? Functional phenomena are seen by the common world and conceptualized to be absolutely existent, and not like an illusion. It is in this regard that there is dispute between the yogis and the common world. Which means the yogi way of seeing is that yes, there is cause and effect, but it is like an illusion. Okay? What's the point here when we say like an illusion? Imagine a dream. Okay? And let's say that we are dreaming with a big elephant. Okay? The elephant of the dream, does it exist or not? The dream elephant, does it exist or not? In our dream, there is an elephant that we see. That image that we are perceiving, which is the dream elephant, does it exist or not? Yes. Is it a real elephant? No. So the dream elephant exists, but it does not exist as a real elephant. Correct? When we are dreaming, do we see the dream elephant if we are dreaming with elephant? Yes. But if we are not aware that it is a dream, do we believe it's a real elephant? What happened then? We get afraid. Or we say, oh, how beautiful elephant. Then it starts running on us, you know. Then we get afraid. We start to run. We get fear. We get anger. Who sent me here? Why the elephant is coming to me? We get all types of emotions in relation to that. Why? Because we believe it's a real elephant. What happened if inside our dream, at a certain point, we understand that we are dreaming? Do we still see the dream elephant? Yes. Does it still make us fear as before? No. Why not? Because we know that it's just a dream elephant. It's not a real elephant. Okay? Similar to that, we make another example. in the beginning of cinema, one of the first movies that was made was the image of a train coming out, no? Coming in the direction of the screen, of the people who are watching. And people in the beginning, when they used to see this, they got very afraid, People would like start shouting and closing their eyes because they have never had that experience of a movie before, no? So what happens is that at that moment, when people saw the train coming, the image of a train coming on our direction, does that image exist or not? Yes. Is there a train coming in our direction? No. Okay. So the image is not an illusion. What is the illusion? To believe that the train is actually coming in our direction. Okay. So the difference is what? Today, when we watch a movie of a train coming in our direction, the same image, do we see a train coming in our direction, the image of that? Yes. Do we get afraid? Why not? Because we know are just a light projected on a white screen. We know that it's just an image. But still, it looks like a train coming to us. But we know it's not a real train. So what's the illusional aspect? The image itself is not the illusion. The illusion is to believe that actually the train is coming. Is that when it appears as a train, that's the illusion. And we believe in the illusion when we believe it's a real train. It appears as an elephant in a dream. That's like the illusional aspect. And we believe in the illusion when we actually believe that it is a real elephant. Okay? So, when we believe when we don't know that we are dreaming, the elephant appears as existing by its own characteristics, by its own self as an elephant. When we know that we are dreaming, we know that that's just a projection of our mind. And we are not afraid at all. Okay? Similar to that, what happens is that phenomena appears to us as being of inherent existence. They appear to us as being of intrinsic existence, which means as existing by their own self, as existing in an absolute way. And what happened? We believe in it. By believing in it, we create attraction, we create aversion, we have reaction. The same way like in the dream, we react. The yogis, they see the world, the relative world, as an illusion, which doesn't mean that it is an illusion. We need to be very careful with the words. When I say the world is like an illusion, it means that it is not an illusion. Like. Otherwise I would say it is an illusion. No, it is not an illusion. If it is similar, it's because it's not the same. Okay, this is very clear. If something is similar, by definition, it's not the same. So what does it mean when we say it's like an illusion? It means it has an aspect that it's similar to the aspect of an illusion. There is something that makes it similar to an illusion. So what's the illusion-like aspect of phenomena? That they appear to us as if they existed by their own characteristics. It appears to us as if the train is coming to our direction. That's the illusion-like. But actually, it is not. In the same way that there is no train coming to us, there is no phenomena that exists by its own characteristics. Nothing exists independently of the imputation of the name. So, the different way of seeing phenomena from the yogic perspective and the common perspective is that when we look to the world and we do not analyze, it's the same. There is no discussion. When we start analyzing how the phenomena exist, then we get a big discussion, because the common way will say, this exists because it exists like this, and that's all. The yogis say, no, that's an illusion. It does not exist as it appears of being of inherent existence. It is interdependent. It depends on the observer. It depends on the imputation of the name. Okay, can we see these two differences? Okay, so I will read again the verse to see if it's clear. By means of examples accepted by both, and because, when not scrutinizing, both accept that causes function for the sake of the results.
functional phenomena are seen by the common world and conceptualized to be absolutely existent, and not like an illusion. It is in this regard that there is dispute between the yogis and the common world. Okay. Is it clear? Yes? No? If the world was an actual illusion, it would mean that it would not exist. Okay? An illusion is something that appears but does not exist as it appears. Okay? When we say, oh, the world is an illusion, it would mean it doesn't exist. And the world does exist. When I touch the glass exists. But it does not exist as it appears to me. Which means the elephant of a dream, does the elephant of the dream exist or not? Yes. Does it exist as a real elephant? No, but when I am dreaming, I think it's a real elephant. That's why it's like an illusion. Sorry? The only difference between dream and the rest, here we use the dream as an example, okay? But the dream is reality. It's the reality created by our mind. The difference is the following. If I am in the dream and I dream that I am killing someone, and have I actually killed someone or not? No. No. Mentally, I have done the karma of killing. But to kill someone, you need to take away the life of someone. And if I imagine that I am killing someone, am I taking away the life of someone? No. Okay? In other words, if I dream and I dream that I kill you, when I wake up, I go in the morning and there you are. Have I killed you? No. Even though I have dreamt it. So the dream is a projection of the mind, okay? The point is that in the dream, we see it as being true. But actually it's not. So similar to that, phenomena appear to us as if being of inherent existence, as is existing from their own characteristics. But they do not exist in that manner, okay? They exist, but in an interdependent way. Not in an absolute, objective, inherent way. Okay? Here, what happened is like this. Basically, when we talk about illusion, when I say phenomena are like an illusion and not an actual illusion, it's basically because, sure, taking the example you have given, water. Water, traditionally we make the example, the same glass of water, when it's at the same time we put a human being watching it, we put a deva from the god realm, and we put a narak from a hungry ghost, okay? Watching the same glass of water. The human being sees it water. The god will see it as nectar. The hungry ghost will see it as pus and blood, okay? So, which one is right? What's the illusional aspect that exists in here? Is the fact that we as human beings, because of our own karma, because of our own body, because of the own context in which we live and so on, we will see it as water and we believe that it exists as water by its own self. That's why it's like an illusion. That's the aspect that is illusional. The same example with the fish and the water. We look as water as something that to be inside of water, it's something totally dangerous. The fish will see it at his own natural habitat and so on. But we see it as something that we cannot be inside, as something maybe repulsive, our own vision of water, as if water existed in that way by its own characteristics. Whether actually it's not. It only exists in that way because we exist in the way how we are and we interact with it. So the point is that the water is only water. Why? Because I see it as such.
because there is the imputation of the name. This doesn't mean that the water does not exist. Because if I say it is an illusion, it will say that the water that I perceive doesn't exist. No, this I'm talking about. I'm talking about if we look from normally in Tibetan when we say there is a big difference when we say gyuma tabu and gyuma in Tibetan. When we do the debating and when we study it, there is a big difference in saying it's like an illusion and it is an actual illusion. The actual illusion is something that does not exist. Something that is like an illusion, it's something that does exist but has an aspect that does not exist. Okay? So the water that I perceive does exist. That's why it is not an illusion. But it does not exist as it appears to me. Which means it does not exist by its own characteristics in the way how I see it. That's why it's like an illusion. Okay? And the water that he sees also exists. He perceives totally different characteristics, yes. None of them. What is really truth is that the water, or this object, whatever way we like to call it, in this case because we see it as water, the water, doesn't exist as water for me, or doesn't exist as water how the fish see it for the fish, independently of myself and independently of the fish. Which means it doesn't have an existence from its own characteristics. That's the truth. If I say, okay, I see it as water, the God will see it as nectar, the hungry ghost will see it as blood, what's the truth? None of them. All of them are right, and all of them are wrong in the moment that they say that the other one is wrong. Okay? That's the main point. When we say that it is like an illusion. The illusional aspect is this. And then the next point of the question was, then how does the Buddha see it? This is one of the parts in the end of the Umajukpa, the commentary on Madhyamika by Lama Tsongkhapa, Gombarabse, Uma Gombarabse. He's explaining, it's the most, for me, one of the most difficult parts to understand. But basically, what he says is that Buddhas have only direct perceptions. Buddhas don't have any type of projection through mental images. So what happens? How can Buddhas see? The point is that the water that I perceive, does it exist or not? Yes, it exists. So if it exists, can a Buddha perceive it? Yes. How can the Buddha perceive the water that I see? By having a direct perception of my own mind. By me. It's like if I become somehow, because the water that I perceive only exists in this way because I exist. Because of my own experience. Because the question is, let's make an example. Let's take this mala, for instance, okay? This mala, it has a long story, okay? I have it for many years, blah, 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 blah. It has a very special meaning for me. Let's put it in this way, okay? So when I look at the mala, it has a specific reality for me. It exists in a way. If I give it to you, it exists in a different way for you. Same way like the water for me and for the fish, okay? Different level, but the same thing. No, it's the same because it's perceived in different ways. It's different because we both call it mala and so on, okay? But the actual thing is different. The point is the following that I want to bring. In the moment that I see it, okay, it exists. Does the mala exist for me? Yes. Does this mala that I perceive exists? Yes, it exists. Now, when you see the same object, you may give a complete different way of seeing it. Does the object that you perceive exist? Yes, it does exist. Now, the object that I perceive exists. How can a Buddha see it? That object only exists because I see it. So the Buddha can see it by seeing my own mind. Through my mind that he can actually perceive the objects. The object only, now to make more precise, this object only exists, what I mean by object, the one that I perceive, my own perception of reality only exists because I exist. Okay? The illusional aspect, because let's forget about the concept of illusion for a moment. The illusional aspect of it is that I believe that the object that I see as I see exists independently of me. That's the actual problem. Okay? In the moment that I see the mala, and this is my mala with my characteristics, and this is like this, and I see that it exists in that way independently of my own perception, independently of the imputation of the name that I give, that's the actual illusional aspect. Okay? It's exactly the opposite. The fact that the mala only exists in the way how I see because I exist, that's the being not illusional. The illusional aspect is that I see it as existing from its own characteristic and it does not, which actually from our common way, mundane way of seeing, it's exactly in the other way around. Because the common mundane way of seeing illusion, it means something that only exists out of my perception means it's an illusion. Here it goes exactly the other way around. What it's saying is that something that exists because of my perception and realizing this means it is not an illusion. The illusional aspect is that I believe that it exists by its own characteristics, when actually it does not. Which means, in the moment that I start to analyze, the mala only exists as the mala as I see, because I exist in this manner, and I have this perception. So because of that, it's not an illusion. In the moment that I believe that the mala exists out of its own characteristics, okay, and if I go to analyze it, does the mala exist out of its own characteristics in the way I see, independently of me as an observer? No. That's why that's an illusion. Okay? Then we need to go to another point, which is, if I see a flying elephant, maybe because I took some acid, okay, and suddenly I see a flying elephant, or even more simple, I get out in the evening here and I see one snake in the floor, but actually it's a rope, okay? The question is it because I see that it exists? No. Because the point is that for a phenomena to exist, it must be able to fulfill the functions and the characteristics of the name and the value that I am attributing to it. Even though I get in the evening out here and I see something that for me looks like a snake, and I'm 100% sure that it's a snake, and I get afraid and start running, it is not a snake unless it's able to bite me, unless it's able to move, unless it's able to fulfill the characteristics and the functions of the concept snake. Okay? If I go and I see an elephant in the middle of the sky, first of all, generally speaking, elephants cannot fly. But still, if I go there and I try to catch the elephant, I'm never going to be able to do that. Okay? So if I see the elephant in the sky and I say, okay, let's catch the elephant in the sky and help him to take some weight, never going to happen. Because it's just an illusion. This is an actual sensory illusion. The point is that it's not because I believe that it exists, but nothing exists independently of my own perception. In other words, external reality does exist, but it does not exist independently of internal reality. Believing that external reality exists independent of internal reality is the actual illusion. Okay? Now I go to Italian a little bit. Otherwise. Huh? Sorry? The last sentence is the following. External reality only exists, or better, external reality does exist, but it does not exist independently of internal reality. believing that external reality exists independently of internal reality, it is the actual illusion. Okay? So just to conclude, making a clear example of the way how we grasp at inherent existence. Okay? Let's take, for instance, this object here. What is this? It's a bell, right? We have no problem with that. This is a bell. Okay. What happens if from now on I come and I say, this is not anymore a bell, we will use it as a glass to drink water. This is a glass, metal glass. That's fine. So what happens is that we use it to drink water. Can it fulfill the functions and the characteristics of a glass or not? Yes. So it can exist as a glass, right? But what happens if you come tomorrow here and then you see me drinking from my new glass? What you may think? The Lama got nuts? He's drinking from his bell, that's a sacred object, how he can do that? Or maybe he's thinking, oh, that's a special ceremony because he's drinking from the bell and the bell symbolizes wisdom. So he's drinking the nectar of wisdom. I don't know, we can invent whatever we like. But at the same time, what happens is that if I say from now on this is a glass, not anymore a bell, how we will see it? The Lama is using the bell as a glass, or the Lama is using a glass? How we will see it? As a glass. Why am I using the bell as a glass and not directly a glass? Because it is a bell, come on. Okay? So the point is that we see it as a bell independently of what we think. For us, it is a bell and nothing more. Okay? For us, it's simply a bell. For us, it's not like, we do not perceive that it exists as a bell based on the imputation of the name. If we give this object to someone that have never seen a bell before, and I tell you, this is a glass that I give to you, can this be a glass for that person? Okay? So what does make this a bell? Giving the name. What makes it to be a bell is the imputation of the name. If we take that away, automatically it doesn't exist as such. But when we experience, how does it appear to us? As existing from its own self. That's the illusion. Okay? Basically, it's that. And in order for me to be able to see it as a glass, what do I need to do? I need to take away the mind that grasps at it existing from its own characteristics as a bell. Okay? So external reality does exist, but it does not exist independently of internal reality. Okay? And the illusion is to see the other way around. The illusion is because everything that we perceive, even our own self, it appears to us as if existing in an absolute manner, as if existing independently of the imputation of the name and so on. All right. So we conclude here for today. Yes, one last question. This is something quite complex to say. It's very difficult for us to describe the direct experience of a Buddha. There is a whole chapter talking about that. But it's very, very difficult because it's something that goes beyond words. There is a way of trying to explain. But basically, a Buddha have different levels of omniscience. One of these levels is the Buddha at the same time perceives all the possible existences of everything. And it doesn't make any more difference between relative and absolute. Everything at the same time exists in all its possibilities, and at the same time it's empty of inherent existence. So it's more or less how a Buddha would see something. It's a non-dualistic way of seeing. We tend very often to have a dualistic mind. Or it is relative, or it is absolute, and so on. In the mind of a Buddha, there is no more such distinction. We could say that everything and nothing at the same time somehow, yes. Okay, the point is that how to say, it's all possibilities at the same time. Okay, so we could say everything and nothing at the same time. Yes, everything, but nothing that exists from its own characteristics. Okay. But this is one of the most difficult subjects to study, is actually how Buddhas perceive the world. Basically, because we are not a Buddha, how can we understand that, Okay? But this is one of the most difficult parts. At least for me, when I studied all of this, one of the most difficult things was to understand that. Okay?
Jetsun lame kutse rapten chi namkar tinle chochur gepadang losan tempe dreme sasumgi drowe munse tatu ne gyurchi Nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delekshin Ninsen taktu delekpe koncho sumge jinge lob koncho sumge ngodrup tsol koncho sumge trashisho Yanda tawa rinpoche make panam ke gyurchi kepa nyampar me payang kongne konto pelwarsho.
May the precious correct view of reality, which has not yet born, arise and grow, which has born have no decline and increase forevermore.
Nimo dele tsendele Nime kuyan delekshin Nintsen taktu delekpe Koncho sum ki jingilom Koncho sum ki ngodrup tsol Koncho sum ki trashishu.
At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.
Oma hontemba lame sangye rinpoche kyoba lame tamcho rinpoche dremba lame gendu rim kyamne kuncho sumla chopa locho sambo pagyu trashi pa tuche tembe trinle yarngo pegye drolo zambe zebra che pande lame shela chopa oma hung oma